Welcome everybody to this week's episode. Today we're going to talk about major scales. What are they? How are they constructed? How do we know what key we're in? How do we know what chords are in that key? We're going to answer all of these problems this week with two really simple primers. Stick around. This is going to be fun. Let's get right to it. So there are a few things. First of all, we're out of as you can see, we are out of the studio today. I am here in front of my beautiful 100 plus year old Nordheimer piano that my very dear friend Jean-Marie gifted to me. This is his mother's piano that she used to teach piano lessons on for many, many years, a long time ago. And now it is here in my Zen room. So we're going to talk about theory. Theory does not have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be confusing. Theory can be a lot of fun. And we're going to make it really easy for you because I'm going to show you right now how to build any major scale in any key whatsoever with this one simple primer. It's tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. This is what it looks like. So we take any given note in the 12-note chromatic scale, and if we start with that note, then the next note will be one tone away. The next note will be a tone away. The next note will be a semitone away from that, and then a tone, and then a tone, and then a tone, and a semitone. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. What does this mean? What is a tone? What is a semitone? Well, a semitone is, in Western music, the smallest division between two notes. So it is from a white key to the black key beside it, to the white key beside it. That is a semitone. These are all semitones. Now a tone is two semitones put together. So if we want to go, so let's start with C. I really believe, just by the way, if you don't have a keyboard, there are apps that have virtual keyboards on them that you can download to your computer or your smartphone or your tablet or whatever kind of electronics that you have. I think it's really important that every musician should at least know how a keyboard works, because it is so graphic and so easy once you really understand what it is. I don't mean it's easy to play. I mean it's easy to understand theory based off of the piano, which is the mother of all Western music instruments. So on a piano, all the white notes are C. That is the major scale in C. So let's put C here. And so if we start with C, what is a tone away from C? Well, it looks like we have a semitone and then a tone, which is D. The next one is D, a tone away. Now a tone away from E, a D would be semitone, tone, E. Now, this is what's really important about the key of C, is that E and F have no black key between them. They are a semitone apart. So E to F, E to F, a semitone. So we have F here. Now a tone away from F is G. A tone away from G is A. A tone away from A is B. And another very important thing, a semitone away from B is C. So B and C, E and F, they have no sharps or flats between them. And C is the only key of all the major scales that has no sharps and flats, which is why we use this as our prototype, because it's less confusing this way, at least to start. So this would work for any key. So far, what do we have here? We have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, or do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. right? That is the major scale in C. Now, if I were to take any other note, let's take G, for example. Let's stick with some guitar keys that we can all vibe with, right? Something that's not too foreign. Want this to be easily digestible. So if I were to put G in this first position here. So if I were to take G, so here's middle C, I'm going to go to the G just below middle C, right? Because if this is C and this is B, this is A, this is G, because we're going down and we would be back to C again. C, these are just octaves of exactly the same pattern. The whole keyboard, the whole piano up and down is just transpositions of that octave. So if I were to start with G and I were to go a tone up from G, tone up from G would be A. So we put A. A tone up from A would be B. A semitone from B would be C. Now a tone from C would be D, and a tone up from D would be E, and then a tone up from E would be not F, but F sharp. So this is where the sharps and flats start to come in. So here we have F sharp. And then we have a semitone from F sharp is, guess what? G. And we're back to G. Just like all the white keys in C make. Well, now we've just transposed that exact structure to G. And G has one sharp, which is F sharp. Great piano fingering there. So this would work for any key. Let's try one more. Just another simple guitar key. Let's try D, okay? But we'll put again tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. All right, so if we're in D, let's try D here. Okay, so here's D. Let's put D in this spot. Now, a tone away from D is E, and a tone away from E is not F, but F sharp. A tone away from F sharp is G. Tone away from G is A. A tone away from A is B. A tone away from B is not C, but C sharp. See, because two semitones make a tone. So C sharp. And a semitone from C sharp is D. So look at that. Now we have, if we just remember that between E and F, there's no sharps or flats. Between B and C, there's no sharps or flats. Then we have the primer to make any major scale that we want. And it sounds just like the C scale, but transposed to D. And in G, and in C. You see how they sound exactly the same, just transposed to different pitches. It's because the structure of every major scale is identical. So here we go. Now we have the primer that can help us to discover what is in any given key, any given major key. So let me clear the board. Please, if you haven't so far, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and let me know what you think. Like the video, leave your comments. Let me know what you think of the content that we're putting out there. Let's get right to it. So how do we know what chords are in any given key? Because this is really important. It's important to know what notes are in the scale, but what chords does that scale give birth to? So let's go back to our scale of C. First, we take our primer. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. Because with this, we can figure out any key. So let's put our C back there. Now, to find out what chords or triads, because in this case, chords and triads, I mean the same thing. When I say a chord, I mean the G major chord, which is really a G major triad, a G, B, and D. If I'm talking about a C or a D minor, I just mean the three notes, even though I'm calling it a chord. Chord and triad in this context is the same thing, okay? So I don't want us to get hung up on language, because it's really important that we catch the gist of what this is going to give us, which is chords or triads. Chords in the diatonic sense are just stacks of thirds. So what is a third? A third is every second note in the scale. No matter where you start from, you don't play the note beside it, you play the note after it. So if I were to take the note C, because we're in the key of C, if I were to take the note C, the next note is D, but the next note after that is E. So this right here is a third. It's a 1, and instead of the 2, we're playing the 3. You've heard the 1, 3, 5 thing before. Well, that's what it comes from. 1, 3, 5. So if I've stacked thirds on all the white keys, then I have the first chord in C, which is C. And if I go to the next third, which is E, and I skip one, I go to the next one, which is the third away, is G, C, E, G, C, E, G. So the first chord in C is C major, right? I can put a major beside it, okay? Now, if I were to do exactly the same thing from the second scale degree, so from the D, and I skip thirds, I would get D, F, and A. I'm skipping to every second note. If I start with D and I go to every second note, I have the key D minor, the saddest of all chords, according to Nigel anyway. So here we are. The next chord or triad in the diatonic series, which means in the key of, is D minor. If I were to do the same thing on the third degree of the scale, and I took E and I skipped to the next third, I have E, G, and B. If I do E, G, and B, I have E minor. Slightly less sad than D minor, but sad nonetheless. So here we go. We have C major, D minor, E minor. Now, if I took F, which is the fourth scale degree, and I just stacked thirds, F, not that one, but this one, which is the third away, not that one, but this one, which is the third away, I have F, A, C. Well, look at this, F, A, C. So the next one is F major. And we can extrapolate that if I keep going and I go from the G and I skip thirds, now this here, let's just pretend that it goes on, that there's a D, E, F, G, because as I get to, there's all these notes up here which just continue on. Because this, and this, and this, all of these are just transpositions of the same scale, the same pattern, just octaves higher and lower. So if I had G on the fifth degree and I had a B and then I skipped up to the next one, it would be a D. So if I had, well, that's a G major. F major, sorry, forgot that. G major. Now the next one, if I took A, C, and I didn't go to D, I skipped to E, so, and imagine that A is back here behind B, right? A would be right here. We have, see, we're getting into the next octave. We started off here, but we're up into the next octave. But here, 6th degree, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Skip a third, I have A minor. And then, if I were to do the same thing on the B, which is the 7th degree of the scale, and I skip thirds, I would have B, I would have D, B, D, and F. And that is a diminished triad. So B diminished. This little circle means diminished. And then if I were to do that again, we'd be back to the octave. So we'd be back to the beginning and we would have C major again. And if I were to continue, we'd have D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished over and over and over again. Which brings me to the second primer, which changed my life. I mean, there are a few things that I learned that truly changed my life, musically speaking. One was learning the caged system on guitar. That unlocked a mystery for me. This unlocked another mystery for me. It really opened things up. So not only is every single, let me clear the board. Not only is every single major scale constructed the same way, so are the diatonic chords. So we had in the key of C, the first chord by skipping thirds was C major, right? Let's go back to our first primer. Tone, tone, semitone. Learn it, it's so easy. Tone, 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 semitone, right? Now, first chord we determined was C major. Well, guess what? The first chord of any major scale is always major. So here's how the chords unveil themselves. Major. The same as we have tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone for every single major scale of the 12 tones that exist in Western music. We also have the same way that the diatonic triads or chords make themselves available to us, which is major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. And then we're back to major again because we have reached the octave. So let's take another key. Let's prove this. Does this actually work? Well, let's see. Let's take another guitar-friendly key. Let's take the key of E. We have the key of E here. And if we go up a tone from E, let's take this E. If we go up a tone from E, we have F sharp, because E and F are stuck together, semitone apart. So tone away is F sharp. A tone away from F sharp is G sharp. A semitone from G sharp is A. A tone from A is B. A tone away from B is not C, but C sharp. And a tone away from C sharp is not D, but D sharp. And it's really important that as you're spelling these out, that you use every note once. A, B, C, D, E, F, G all has to be used once in this, and you will get a correct spelling every time. So, so here we go. We have the key of E. Does it sound right? E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E. Sounds just like the scale of C to me, except transposed to another pitch. Right? It's exactly the same structure, just pitched to a different place. So I predict that the first, I don't even have to do the jumping of the thirds anymore. This is the beautiful thing. You remember this primer. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. And you will always get the right chords. And how do we do this? So the first note of the scale is E. And if we build a major chord off of E, we have E major. The next note is F sharp. The second scale degree is always a minor chord. F sharp minor. And look, F, A, C sharp. Here it is, F, A, C sharp. The next one, the third chord in the series, is always minor. It's always minor in a major key. So G sharp, B, and D sharp. G sharp, B, D sharp. Here we go. The next one is A, and guess what? A, C sharp, E. There we are. And we can go up to the next one, which is B, B major with a D sharp and the F sharp, B, D sharp, F sharp. And then the next one would be C sharp, but what? C sharp minor, because the sixth degree is always minor, also known as the relative minor. We'll get into that in another video. Here you go. There's your minor, and we build a diminished triad off of the D sharp, which all we have to do is just follow our stacking, which is D, not E, but F sharp, and then A. So D sharp, F sharp, A, D sharp, F sharp, A. And then we're back to E. E, D sharp, G sharp, and B. So here we are, the chords in the scale of E major. That's really how easy it is. It is no more complicated than that. And you can do this with any key in the 12-tone series. So it works the same. These notes are all the same. They're only called different things depending on what keys you're in. I'm going to assume that we're playing guitar, we're playing rock music. It's going to be mostly in keys that are not E flat and F, but more like F sharp, A, E, and stuff like that. So A, D, G, C, these are all very guitar friendly chords. I'm going to stick with that for now. I want to make sure that the thing that you take away from this is that it can be simple to learn theory, and theory is a very powerful tool, because look at these two primers. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. If you remember these two primers, you have the keys to the kingdom. You can figure out any major scale and any chords within that major scale. And what I mean by chords are the triads. We will go into some of the functionality of the harmony later on, but understand that just by having this, if you see a chord progression that has an E major chord, an A major chord, and a B major chord, and a C sharp minor chord, you're going to know by looking at E, A, B, C sharp minor, there's a very good chance that you are playing. As a matter of fact, the only chance is that you are playing in the key of E. So here you go. If you know what key you're in, you know what scales you can use, you know what notes are available to you. Also, I keep harping on chord tones. It's really important to know when you're playing over music, when you're soloing, when you're improvising, what are the chord tones and what are not. It doesn't mean that we want to play chord tones on all of our solos all the time. That would be boring, because it's the non-chord tones that are the juicy, interesting notes, but the chord tones are home base. It's the safe spot. It's what sounds melodious and what sounds like home. So again, the more you learn this, the more you'll become familiar with the keys that you play often on the guitar. We play a lot of A, we play a lot of D, we play a lot of G. So we learn these keys, and we can figure out any major scale by remembering tone, tone, semitone. I'm going to say it again, tone, 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 semitone. Just memorize it. It's easy. Tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. E and F have only a semitone between them. B and C have only a semitone between them. You remember that, and you will get any major scale you want. Any major scale and its inherent diatonic chords. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. That's it. It's that simple. Thank you for spending this time with me on this episode. My name is Dwayne Dixon, aka Double D. I truly, sincerely hope that you get value out of these videos. If you do, please subscribe to the channel, turn on the notifications, like this video, and let me know what little theory tricks, or what was it about learning musical theory that opened up the world for you? What seemed to remove that mask, remove the blinders, and reveal the grandeur of what music can be? This is one of these things for me. This, if there's one thing that I hope you really watch and really absorb, it is this video. So thank you. I'll see you on the next one. Double D out.